Hi, I'm Daylon, and I'm the founder of Curious Core, and welcome to another session of Coaching Question of the Month. And this month's coaching question is a slightly complex one, so I'll be sharing it using two actual examples from our students and telling it in a story. And at the same time, this is a coaching question which can be applied beyond just a career transition, beyond job hunting. You can actually apply it in solving your work problem as well. And I think it's an awesome mental framework to bring back. So watch the rest of the video to find out more about the coaching question of the month. Now, this is what I discovered recently in my team, and I discovered that my team has difficulty diagnosing between strategy and tactics. Now, why is this a common problem, especially for people who maybe did not go to business school or did not went to consulting? And I think this is a very serious problem, because if you diagnose the problem wrongly and you think this is a strategic error, or if you think this is a tactical error when it's not, then you might actually be putting your efforts and focus on something that you shouldn't be putting, right? So the coaching question of this month is as follows. Does this problem require a strategic or tactical tweak? So that means you need to identify correctly whether this is a strategic problem, an issue, or is it a tactical problem, an issue. Now, let me bring to your attention a specific story from a student who is a very experienced student. He's been a visual designer for a very prominent tech startup before, and he's got this great wealth of experience and freelancing experience with some really nice brands. So to think about it, he shouldn't have any trouble or any difficulty finding a UX job, right? It seems like he's got invited to many different interviews, right, with companies like Meta, and as well as GovTech in Singapore. So the hiring bar is pretty high. So he's got into the interviews, he went through the design exercises and went to the final interview, but he just did not seem to clinch the job. But one of the key things that he did was that he went around to apply for different roles, including senior roles, including junior roles. And I think that itself meant that he was using this strategy called the spray and pray approach, right? So basically you send a bunch of CVs to different roles and you pray and you hope that one of them gets back to you and gives you a job offer. Not that this is an incorrect strategy or it's a wrong strategy, it's just that for someone of his experience level, he shouldn't be doing that, right? Because he was applying for junior positions, he was like applying for roles with like pay scale that were a lot lower than his, and he was kind of like missing the mark, and he was not like focusing on what he's really good at and understanding where can he actually add value. So this guy, let's call him Romeo, right? Romeo had problems clinching a job. He couldn't get a full-time job offer. And this was what I advised Romeo to do. He works very hard. He sends out a lot of job applications, but the problem with this is that he initiated a tactical sort of like approach to things, right? Like he was just thinking that this is a problem that just requires me to reach out to more people. Instead, he did not consider his strategic approach in solving this problem. So, as I mentioned to you earlier, this is a problem that he should not have done a strategy where he did spray and pray, right? What should he have done? Someone of his level is probably going to be paid slightly more than a junior designer. And what that means is that to a recruiter, he will be an attractive candidate to place because he's considered mid-level, because he has some experience and he worked for a very big tech company before. So in this case, he should have actually worked with recruiters. That's number one. Number two, he should have actually reached out to his ex-colleagues at the really famous tech firm. And that famous tech firm would have a lot of colleagues working in different companies right now, including very, very prominent companies. So he should have used his own referral network to ask if there's any openings in the team and get a warm introduction into the team. The next thing he should have done, usually when we see candidates struggle in the final round, it's usually because of two reasons, right? One is that they have a culture fit problem. So the team doesn't like you, or the team feels like you're not a good culture fit, so that they decide not to hire you or offer you a contract. That's usually towards the end after you've done all the design exercises. The next potential issue is actually you have poor communication skills, right? Because you can't express yourself, you can't communicate yourself, the team believes that you can't communicate with stakeholders and persuade stakeholders. So I advise him to actually join a club called Toastmasters. I used to be a Toastmasters myself, where he can actually practice public speaking in a very nurturing environment and improve his presentation skills and his ability to express his own ideas. So that's the two pieces of advice that I gave him, which is work your own network, work with recruiters, and as well as work on your communication skills, and be very, very clear, like, what is your value as a mid-level UX designer. So that's Romeo's story, right? He made what I would call a tactical tweak, whereas he should actually be making a strategic tweak instead. Now, let's look at the flip side. Let's look at another situation where it's also an actual student of mine, right? And let's call her Juliet, right? And Juliet is a great candidate. She's very, very experienced as an art director, and she has worked with a lot of international clients before. Now, Juliet tried to also transition into UX design, and Juliet had tried her best. She was very selective because she believed like there should be only certain jobs that she should apply for. So she did reach out to friends, she did reach out to recruiters as well, and she did a lot of different approaches and tried a lot of different strategies, including revising her portfolio and making sure it was really, really good. But here's the thing that Juliet did not do, right? So if I were to compare the number of job applications that Juliet sent versus Romeo, in this case, Juliet actually sent only about a quarter of what Romeo sent out. So in this case, Juliet was being too overly selective about her employment prospects and where she should be applying. Instead, she should be actually more open towards applying for more jobs. So what I would say is that Juliet does not have any problem with her strategy, right? She understood that she was a mid-level designer, she understood her value, and she actually tried to reach out to her own network. She tried to work with recruiters and tried to try different channels and different avenues in this case. But in her case, she did not actually fulfill the numbers, and there is sort of a number, it's kind of like a numbers game as well. She did not get enough interviews, and because she did not get enough interviews, it did not translate into enough job offers. But thankfully, one of the interview worked out for her, and she managed to get hired as a senior UX designer, which I think is really, really great, in an insurance organization. So that is really wonderful, and I'm very, very happy for Juliet. So I just want to bring to your attention in identifying strategic errors versus tactical errors. And while you're job hunting and while you're making this career transition, you have to be mindful, like, do you need to change your strategy, right? Especially when you keep trying the same approach, you keep trying the same strategy, and then you're like, oh, I just have to work harder, right? If I work harder, like something will work out. But sometimes it's not that case, right? It's not about working harder, sometimes it's about working smarter. So if you're working smarter, you need to change your strategy. And if it calls for a change of strategy, then try and change a different approach. Try and ask people who have successfully transitioned, how did they manage to make that transition, right? So this is one of the key things that I hope you take away from this video, understanding the difference between strategy and tactics. And if I were to explain it very simply, strategy is sort of your plan of approach, right? And it's how you allocate your resources to ensure that you get to a certain objective. Whereas tactics are actually specific actions that you will do to meet those objectives, right? So that could be one overarching strategy, that could be multiple tactics to help you get there. So that's something that's important to understand as you are working as a professional as well. I would say as a working professional, try not to apply try not to solve a strategic problem using a tactical tweak, right? And that is something that's very important for you to bear in mind as you are looking and as you're diagnosing problem. And part of problem solving is diagnosing the problem and ensuring you're diagnosing the problem correctly. Okay? So I hope this video has been helpful for you, and feel free to leave any comments if you have any questions about the contents of this video, or if you have any struggles in your career transition to the tech industry. We happen to run a school for mid-career professionals to help them transition, and we have programs for user experience design and product management. Those are our two flagship programs, and we welcome any international students who operate within the Singapore time zone to join us. In fact, we have students from Malaysia as well as Singapore, and we welcome any students who are comfortable with the time zone, and it's very friendly. We have weekend classes, we have weekday classes. Feel free to inquire at curiouscore.com below. My name is Daylon, and I'm the founder and general manager for Curious Core. I wish you all the best in your career transition, and if you have any questions, feel free to reach out and do click the subscribe button. If you enjoy our content, we will be launching more content very, very soon. All right, take care, and I wish you a very good week ahead. Ciao.